Hi, I'm Shanette Harper, and welcome to Alaska Filmmakers, a program dedicated to exploring the many talented individuals working in the Alaska film industry. Today we are joined by one of the many instructors in the Journalism and Public Communications Department at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. With over 35 years of experience in and out of Alaska, he's been instructing students in film television production for 8 years, helping to produce not only the live national broadcasts of UAA hockey, but also a number of commercial productions here in the state. Alaska Filmmakers is pleased to welcome Professor Red Bradley.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this afternoon?
Excellent.
Good. So basically, I just wanted to find out just a little bit more about you, perhaps your personal interests.
Well, I've been in the business for 35, 40 years. I started in high school, did some in college, but mostly professionally in Anchorage. I owned a production company called 9 Star Productions, and we shot 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter, and video, and had a post-production facility and an audio facility during the 80s and into the mid-90s.
So can you tell me what inspired your career directly?
Well, you know, when I was an undergraduate, I did my work at Utah State University. I hung out with a bunch of the photo people. My major was ceramics and printmaking, but, you know, we decided to do a film and we shot it on 16 millimeter, and, you know, that was fun. When I moved to Alaska in the early 70s, the state of Alaska hired me to be the information officer for the Alaska State Troopers, and they wanted to do something new. And so I took them into video production, and we made a ton of commercials, a ton of programs, a ton of informational things, and after a while I got tired of doing it for the state and started my own production company in 1979. Primarily video. Alaska made the transition in the late 70s and the early 80s from film, away from film, to the expediency of video. And so video production grew rapidly in town. And then somewhere in the mid 80s to you know, the latter part of the 80s, it became really increasingly cost prohibitive to bring film crews up from outside. And we started shooting film, and, you know, we'd shoot one and use it as a demo to show the next group and then the next group. And, you know, pretty soon we were a film production company and not shooting so much video. And then, you know, we decided to buy, you know, our own equipment. So we had the first 35 millimeter camera in town, and, you know, we had a post-production facility, the audio facility, and then we started shooting 16 millimeter. Then, you know, we had HMI lights and grip trucks, and, you know, all of a sudden we were like a real production company. And, you know, it's not that I set out to do that. It's just that the opportunity was there, and I just kept stepping into it. And, you know, you look back and you say, you know, here's the quintessential people in the filmmaking business in Alaska as far as commercial production. And, you know, I can name all those people on one hand who they are, because we're essentially all the same age. You know, if we're not 60, we're almost 60. And, you know, and that's the history that goes back to the late 70s.
So how did you get into instructing for the university?
I think I sold the production company in '92 so that I could go back to school. And I think that there's a generation of us that have been in the business for a long time, and then it was time to help the next generation into the business. And so I decided to do that by teaching at the university and to go back to school and get the degrees that gave me the credentials to do that.
So how did you plan out your curriculum when you first started? Like, what was your main interest?
Part of the curriculum was already in place by the time I got at UAA, and what we've done over the past few years is try to expand it to include a course that takes a year to do focusing on documentaries. On independent filmmaking is another series, specializing a little bit more in editing and in video field production, which is my specialty. Oh. So I'm not a studio guy per se, so the courses that I helped create were more for field production and commercial production.
What are some of the requirements for your courses?
They're like all courses at a university, and it's a little hard to say that this program just focuses on the craft of filmmaking or video making. It's more interdisciplinary and with a lot of liberal studies. But once you go through the process of starting into video, primarily, then it's, here's the basics and this is how the camera works, and then, you concentrate a semester doing that, and you just move up the ladder through editing, through studio production, into the filmmakers, independent filmmaking, into documentary making, and each step builds you and helps extend the capacity of your craft within the business. And I think that we're not done yet. We're looking at courses in lighting, we're looking at courses in producing and other things that will help support the industry as the industry continues to grow in Alaska.
What is the main thing that you'd really like to see added to that curriculum, like the most important feature?
I'd like to actually see some film production being done, which is a difficult task in Alaska, but I think accomplishable. We've spent some time working in a partnership with the main photographic schools to have some of their courses here. And if I can accomplish it before I leave the university, we started a few years ago the Alaska Filmmakers Institute in partnership with the main photographic schools, and I'd like to see that happen.
So tell me more about the Alaska Film Institute.
Well, the Alaska Filmmakers Institute was something that I felt that the university needed as a summer program so that you could have more intense courses. Dr. Fred Pierce, who was the chair of the department at the time, agreed. We spent laid the initial groundwork to be able to offer courses here by working with the main photographic workshops people back in Rockport, Maine, so that they would offer the courses here. Our students would be able to take them, and again, they were all centered on film as a craft and all the little ancillary things that go with production. As with many things with the university, it's budget related, so we're kind of in one of those pause stages. But with the interest in film in Alaska and film as a location, it may become a reality again and get off the back burner and on the front where it belongs.
In class, what sort of projects do you gear the students to working on?
Usually the way that I handle the advanced classes, and that's like editing and video production, field video production, is that I find a project for students to work on. And they're real industry projects. We've done stuff for the Anchorage School District, we've worked with Providence Hospital, we've worked with the Anchorage Police Department in producing 5 to 10 minute videos. All the aspects of it are done by the students in the class. And I find that it's a much richer experience for the students because it's hands-on. Almost every production that they have done has won some kind of national award. And so, they're getting the skills that they need to be in the business. The clients are getting, polished products that they would have to pay, tens of thousands of dollars for, and it's a win-win situation for everybody.
So speaking to those national awards, where are some of the places your students have gone after they've exited your career, your program?
Probably the most notable student that's graduated is Aurora Warfield, who left the program, applied to the Directors Guild of America to get into their program. They take about 8 people a year. She got into the school in New York, so she went and became a DGA trainee in New York. She worked on Law and Order, And since she's graduated, she's now a second assistant director. She worked on The Sorcerer's Apprentice. She worked on Pelham 1, 2, 3. She worked on Sex and the City. And, you know, she has credentials that everybody would die for. And she's all done it at the age of 28. And so, you know, they kind of end up at various places. Some of them do, some of them don't, and that's to be expected. Have a student that works for Hallmark Productions doing production work, and he's primarily an editor. So, you know, and that's the gratifying part. You know, if you have 100 students, you may get 3% that end up actually doing this for a living because it's hard to break into the business.
What is your opinion of how production has evolved over the last 30 years?
It's phenomenal. Just as an example, when I started doing 9-star productions in the early 80s, so it started in 1979, in order for me to edit, I had to have a room full of equipment. So towards the very end, the post-production facility probably had $500,000 worth of equipment in it. It had 3 1-inch machines, a bunch of Betacam machines, some 3/4-inch machines, a switcher, audio boards, monitors all over the place, and you essentially had to have an engineer to make sure that it all worked. Now I have it on my laptop. And, you know, as my specialty throughout my career has been primarily editing. So instead of sitting in a big room that's about half the size of this studio with all this equipment around me and loading tapes back and forth, now I do it on my laptop. And my favorite thing is I can do it on my laptop in Paris. I can do it on my laptop in Maui. And, you know, the next time I'm going to do it on my laptop in Tokyo. So wherever I am, I can do it. And, you know, the need for 5-ton grip trucks with, you know, all sorts of pieces of equipment in order to be able to shoot in heavy tripods, gone. You know, now I can do it with, you know, I mean, you can do it with something as simple as a Canon 5D camera that puts out great pictures. Plug it in, you know, the card into the computer, download all the footage, slap it together in Final Cut Pro, add whatever effects you want to it, all the titles, all the music, and it never leaves your computer. And the investment is, let's say, $10,000. I could have made a lot of money if I could have done that in the 80s, you know, a lot of money. Instead, you know, I had maybe an investment of $750,000 and a building to house all the equipment and trucks to haul it all around in. I really love throwing it in my Bug. You know, it fits in there and away I go. And my favorite part, I love doing it from Paris instead of, you know, tied down to a facility somewhere else. And it's more immediate. The film side of it hasn't changed. You know, you go out, you shoot film, you roll it up, you send it to San Francisco, or we send it to San Francisco. They process it, and instead of sending me a 1-inch, you know, they can send me a DVD with all the film transferred. You know, that part hasn't changed how I edit it. That's the best part. Nothing I like better than sitting at a computer, and editing all day long.
So do you foresee yourself going back to doing more of that after you retire?
No, I'm old. I don't want to do it anymore. You know, I think that all of us that have been in the business in Alaska for 30 or 40 years are looking forward to the next generation, you know, taking up the gauntlet, you know, going out and doing it. And I think that our role is to help shepherd that, to find those people that have the passion. You know, the craft, the art of filmmaking is a passion, and you have to have it. And there's all these steps that you follow along the way. That's who we're leaving our legacy to. They're the next, you know, book in the next chapter in the history book of what happens in Alaska.
So would you say that basically with your curriculum and the students that you're turning out, you're comfortable leaving this legacy then?
I think so. I mean, again, it's a small group. I think it's a really small group. There's lots of people that have the yearning inside of them to do it, but you know, there's that becomes minuscule with the ability and the passion to be able to do it and want to do it and to do it right. And I think that, you know, I can take my 100% of the students, take that 3%, and I can dump it down to about 0.5% of those students that really have the skills, the understanding, and the commitment to the craft. These are the people that are doing it and are going to do it and aren't going to shortchange the system, and they're going to practice it the way that it has been practiced from the beginning. And you know, the opportunities are here. You know, like I mentioned earlier, those people that, you know, that are in my age group that have been around, we're all getting old and we don't want to do it so much anymore. I don't think that the yearning goes away. I just think that you know, there's other things that we want to do now because we've earned that right. I'll never forget that you know, we were shooting 35 millimeter. We were making some commercials for Tesoro back in the 80s. And, you know, we rented a Tyler mount, you know, leased a helicopter, put the Tyler mount on the side, had the 35 millimeter camera. Kurt Gowdy's on the train, and, you know, I was in the engine, I was the producer, and coming out of one of the tunnels out of Whittier, all of a sudden this helicopter takes off, the cameraman's sitting on the side shooting the pictures, and I you know, oh my gosh, I felt like I was doing Apocalypse Now. You know, those are the things that we did, and we've done them. And now it's somebody else's turn to you know, sit on the edge of the helicopter with their feet dangling off the edge, with their eye up to the viewfinder going, oh my God, now I know how it felt to film, you know, Apocalypse Now. This is so cool.
What advice do you have for aspiring filmmakers?
You know, I think that if you want to do it, you live, eat, breathe the craft. So you go, you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about it. In the middle of the day, you're thinking about it or doing it. When you go to bed at night, you say, oh, you know, I could have done this or I could have done that. It's an evolution and it's organic. It never changes. But if you don't have the commitment, and if it's not what, you know, motivates you 24/7, 365, then find something else to do. If you're the person that, you know, you just can't live without doing this, and you don't care what you do. Okay, I'll be a grip today. I'll be the sound man tomorrow. I'll be the this. And that's the really cool thing about Alaska. We don't have the division of labor like they do in LA or in New York. So you have the opportunity to do all these things. And so it's just touch, you know. I have to do something to touch this craft each and every day, and I'm not fulfilled unless I get to do that. And if you don't have it, do something else. But you have to find your passion. This one is the one, you know, filmmaking, video making, this business demands, requires everything from you. If you're a 9-to-5 guy, this isn't it. If you're a 24-hour guy, 36-hour guy, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it takes to do the production, then this is the place for you.
Thank you.
No problem. I've been doing this for a while.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Alaska Filmmakers. We'd like to thank our host, Out North, and our guest, Brad Bradley, for speaking with us today. If you would like to learn more about Professor Bradley and UAA's JPC program, you can find their link and contact information on our website, alaskafilmmakers.com. Thank you for joining us, and remember, everyone has a story to tell.